Well, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me here in my shop on January 20th, 2023. And I'm going to be working on this quite nice record player. This has come from a large console, which I have out in my garage. And this record player, I'm pretty sure we can make this record player work pretty well. There's usually three basic issues with a record player like this. May or may not be a problem. One is traction, or the ability of the record player to spin the platter at the right speed and have some traction behind it. So if you put a little drag on it, it doesn't slow right down. It has a little bit of horsepower behind it. So that's one problem that's quite typical to these record players. If this guy doesn't spin, then nothing else works. All the automatic features don't work and the like. So another problem is a dead, weak cartridge. Not likely the case with this particular record player, I'm guessing. And I have had a peek at it already. I think it's probably been replaced. I don't think the original one is in there. Last one is the needle itself, which may or may not be worn out. So those are the basic issues with a record player like this. This one comes with another issue, one I've never seen before, and that is you cannot lift the overarm up as a warning. You see the little handle here to lift it? Don't lift it from out here. Do lift it from back here. Okay, you have to kind of reach back to get here. They put the little handle here because it's just a little more convenient, but the farther back you reach. But this one, it should come up and swing over. With it in this position, you can't drop a record on this record player. Oh, well, big problem. Small problem, big consequences. This is a pretty good record player. If we look here, we see a counterbalance. So this is a balanced tone arm. It's not a spring-loaded tone arm. And there's some adjustments here. This one appears to be set to 0, which I doubt is the right setting. There's some adjustment here. There's quite a bit here to be adjusted. Even this weight, the counterweight, can be adjusted. Okay, we'll get to that. That's late in the game. But that makes this a pretty good record player because you can reduce the tracking force or the pressure that the needle's putting on the record to a very low amount, and therefore you can put a higher quality cartridge in here. Now I believe what's in here is a ceramic cartridge, not the highest quality cartridge you can find. I think that's what's in there right now. We'll find out as we go along with it. This one has, I just noticed, a little red tab here, so it has a flip needle on it. Let's take this right off and take a look at it right away. There we are. So we'll study this more closely later. That's a flip needle. Well, looks good. Some number on the side of the cartridge. Maybe we can sort some things out about it. A-Static. It says A-Static is a manufacturer of the cartridge. A-Static manufactures a lot of replacement cartridges. So is this exactly the same as the original? No, I don't think so. I think the original looked a lot bigger than this one. Okay. Primary thing is it's all there. The needle's there. Just put this back on. I don't know if this works or not. Okay, well, really, the best way to do this is to power it up and see what happens. There's no use trying to listen to it just yet. This is the power cord to operate the turntable. It's got 3 wires. There's a good reason for 3 wires. When these record players are in a console, there's a good chance that the console is designed so the record player can turn it on and off. So as soon as you start the record player, you also start the console amplifier. Everything comes on. The beauty of that is when the record is over and the tone arm picks up, comes back and shuts off the record player, it shuts off the rest of the console amplifier too. So the whole thing shuts off. So you could conceivably you could put a record on and go to bed and fall asleep listening to it. So, but we'll see. I think the first thing is to get this to come up. No, I think the first thing is to plug it in or power it up anyway. No, it goes up. So that's why there's 3 wires here, because one of them is switched power going back. So there's power coming in. When you switch it on, the power goes to the motor and starts up the motor on this. But it also sends power back on probably this brown wire. You know, if they're doing color coding, they're quite likely to use white and black. White would be ground, black would be the hot wire, and did I say white and brown? White and black. White would be ground, black would be the hot wire, and the brown wire would be the switched wire going back to power up the console. So in fact, all the power going to the console is running through here, through a little switch under here. Not that the console consumes vast amounts of power. Now how can I be sure of this? Just hooking up power and trying it out? That's probably not the best approach. Probably need some kind of insight. Well, the colors kind of give some insight. Excuse me. Hello?
This is Web Listing Pros calling about your Google My Business listing. Our records show that your listing is either not verified or missing important information that could be keeping your customers from finding you on Google.
Nothing like getting a call from Google. My God, a huge computer system just phoned me. I've come to the attention of the gigantic Google computer system. Okay. Another thing that's worth noting is the while you're starting to work on this is the platter turning freely. This one is in both directions. Well, that means the mechanical state of the record player is off. It's in an off state. If you move this and you can feel it's pushing on stuff and things are happening and stuff is moving and the tone arm starts moving, then this is not quite in a neutral position yet. It's not in the off position, if you like. Why do you want to know that? Because as soon as you apply power, if it's in that state, it's going to start running right away. And you just want to be a little bit prepared for what's going to happen. How am I going to hook up to this? Well, I'm going to hook up in a way which is going to scare everybody here. I'm going to use this really terrible cheater cord. I should really make another one, but I'm too lazy to do that. So I'm going to be powering this up through my bench power supply system. I guess I can call it a system, although I don't want to make too much of it. But I want you to understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing this to try to maintain my safety and to not get into trouble with damaging something I'm trying to work on. So you don't necessarily want to apply a full 120 volts to something like this right off the bat. If you're just going to plug it in the wall and something's wrong and there's a short circuit, you're going to depend upon your house protection, your house fuse or your house circuit breaker to go. And you know, that's a little bit dangerous in a way, because contrary to what some people might think, if you have a 15 amp fuse or breaker in your panel, that's the most power that can come through, 15 amps. No, 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 no. You're going to get a fault in front of you that could have, in the worst case, 50 amps in it or something crazy like that. A big explosion could happen right in front of you. So you're okay though. You're at home watching the video. Nothing's going to happen to you. So now I'm kind of wandering around here. That's another thing about watching my videos. I try to just wander around a little bit. So I'm going to plug this into this guy here. This guy is plugged into this. And this is an isolation transformer. This is plugged into another isolation transformer. Why in heaven's name do you have two of them? No good reason. So the power output from here, coming out of here, goes through this switch panel. So this is the power on, power off for this, but this switch also has to be engaged. If I push it down, then the power coming to this is going through two light bulbs over here. Well, in fact, just one right now, just this light bulb. That's what's going to restrict the power in case there's a short circuit or I've done something stupid. All that'll happen is the light will come on full tilt. Nothing more will happen. And I will know, oh, I've made a mistake. Cut the power off, sort out whatever I've done. Okay, so we're gonna assume the brown is the switch, black is the hot wire. Now, because I'm on an isolation joint, there is no, quote, hot wire. When you say hot wire, you're referring to power reference to earth or ground, and there is no reference to ground. That's what the isolation transformer does. So, okay, this is a polarized plug, but it means nothing. I've plugged it into this thing. It has a 3-prong plug, but look, the 3rd prong is just sitting here. It's hooked up to nothing. There's no ground coming with this. I don't want to get into a long discussion about how to maintain safety. I think if you're doing this kind of stuff on your own, it's your job to maintain your own safety. That's your responsibility. I can't help you, really. I can tell you what I'm doing, but I can't help you figure out your stuff. So what am I doing here? Isolation transformer. All my equipment cases are grounded back to the power system. You can see a little wire here, this green wire running along. It's picking up all the cases here. This is old equipment. I've got a shop full of old stuff, and an awful lot of it is just 2-prong power plugs, non-polarized. So I've reconditioned all the equipment that's in here, but in addition, I have grounded the cabinets. So just so you know what's going on here. But I should not be able to get a shock from either side of this while touching that. But I am not going to demonstrate. Not demonstrating. So we're going to apply power. This is in the off position. I'm going to unlock this. The looks like I set this a little too far back when I fooled with it. That's why. Now there's another indication that this is not the original cartridge. This weight is way forward of where you would normally find it. There we are. That's good enough. If you put a bigger cartridge in here, the weight would be heavier. You'd have to move this back to compensate. So that's pretty clearly. There's a bit of a mechanism in here. Interesting stuff. We'll take a look at that. That's something I haven't seen before, but we'll take a look at that stuff when we get there. As far as I know, if I apply the power, nothing should happen. The light should not come on. Everybody should be happy. I'm going to throw the switch downwards. It'll put the power through the light. If I throw that same switch up, then this is connected right to Niagara Falls at that point. So, okay, ready? Okay, so nothing happened. So we can read the voltage here. 104 volts, a little bit low. Just crank it up a little bit. 108, that's okay. 108's a little low too, but that's okay. Not operating. No, not operating. So I'm going to advance this to manual. We're going to find out what happens here. Watch the light. Watch everything. Ooh, that's very disappointing. That's very, very disappointing. Some of these turntables have a switch incorporated in the tone arm, so as you swing the tone arm over the record, it actually turns on the operation. Let's just try that. I don't think this one has such a switch. Nothing. I would guess I've hooked these up wrong, but I'm only guessing now. Let's go a little further. We'll go right over to auto and see what happens. Not a thing. This doesn't even feel right. This doesn't feel right. Perhaps because the mechanism's not operating. You push this over and the mechanism can kind of catch this a little bit. I don't feel it at all. Okay, that's a little surprising. What are we going to do about that? I only have one guess for how to hook these wires up. I don't want to start trying this and that. So let's cut the power here. We will examine these wires and see where they're going underneath the record player. By the way, I have the record player on a support here, which this very handy thing here, this is actually a kitchen cupboard shelf that you could buy. You know, you flip it over the other way and you have a little extra shelf in your cupboard. But I use it this way to hold record players up. It's excellent. But right now we got to look underneath it. So looking underneath it now, I'm going to turn this guy right upside down. One of the risks is the platter is not locked in because somebody previous failed to put a locking device here. I've had this happen. You turn it upside down. These are heavy, and the next thing you know, it's falling off and crashing into stuff. I can see there's an E-clip in there, so that's not going to happen here. This is not going to come off. Oh. This mechanism's operating. Let's keep going. Oh. Okay, I'll be the motor. Don't let it go. Wow, how come it came way over there? Some funny stuff going on. Okay, now it thinks it's playing the record. Okay, it's going to come and try. I don't know why it's going that far. That's a little odd. I don't know what's going on there with that back and forth thing. That's odd. The reason it's trying to play the record is because the overarm is down. Oh, I'll take that back. Now wait a minute. Now, that didn't quite make sense. When the overarm is sitting low, like it is, below this little catch, below the height of a record, if a record were sitting on here, that tells the record player that there's no records left to drop and play. And so when it finishes the last record it dropped, it gets back to here, it shuts off. If this is held up above this catch, in other words, above the height of records, if there were records on here, then the record player knows there's more records. It doesn't stop. It then goes right into drop the next record and it tries to play it. Why this is coming over now when this is down, and now it's not going to do. You know what happened? It's because I pushed this. I triggered some things. Okay, it's off again. Good. What if I get it into that on state? Shut itself off this time, so it didn't quite make it off. So that time the record player realized there's no records to play because it knows the tone arm is down. So inconsistent behavior, I don't know what that's all about. She's out and free. Okay, back to what we were going to do. I'm going to flip it over and examine the power wires, see what's up. Stable. Lots of wires here. I'm going to get rid of this little bit of tape that's holding them together so I can separate them better. So we have, take these off here. So we have the power wires. And we have the audio wires here, separate. Okay, so just taking a glance at the mechanism right away, you can see it's completely dry. The lubrication is completely dry. And this kind of stuff here, down here, a little hard to see in the camera, but we'll look more closely. Little furry stuff all over the place on here is either a form of corrosion product, a crystal corrosion product that's growing on here, or somehow the lubrication they used has turned into this crystal material. It's got no strength at all. So, yeah, this guy's never seen any maintenance. It's just dry as a bone everywhere. Well, that's a good thing in one sense. That tells me that lubrication is probably going to be the solution to any problems I find with it. Why won't you come on? So let's look at these wires here. So here comes, so the incoming wires go into here. This is probably just a terminal spot in here. There's no mechanism associated with it. Probably just a place to have the outgoing wires connected to the wires of the record player itself. So the colors are maintained, assuming they are maintained. Over here, oh, it's a blue color now. They aren't maintained. What's going on? So we got, so coming out of here, we've got the black, brown, and a yellow. So the black, brown, and a white. Probably the same. Blue wire, so the blue wire is going back to drive the motor. So power's coming along on, hey, where'd the black wire go? Black wire is turning into the motor here. So what we're powering is just this motor anyway. So we have power going to the motor, but some of it is traveling through here to get to the switch. And then some of the power is going back and leaving to go over to the console. I don't think this is anything of any particular importance. A blue piece of tape. Okay. This switch may not be operating. This is the switch that's actually being controlled by the front lever. And you can see the plunger here, it's hooked up to this arm. This arm. You can't really see. Here it is here. A little piece moving right here. Yeah. I'm looking to see if you can see that on the camera. Let me raise it up a little higher there. So you got this piece moving here. And that's being moved by this piece, which is from the front lever. Okay, so if I move the front lever, watch the switch. So I'm pretty sure, let me look underneath here just to be absolutely sure I'm moving what I think I am. Yes. This is the front of the record player. So I'm going to move this into the manual position. Should close the switch and start the motor. Okay, we're moving. You can see this moving. So it would appear to have done its job. So why wouldn't the motor come on? A blocked motor. I can't say I've ever encountered a blocked motor. It's a motor that's stuck frozen. I can't say I've ever encountered that. So we want to turn the motor a little bit. That's going to be a little tricky here to do because I can't get at the center spindle. If I put the, so it's not plugged in, so if I put it into an engaged position, which is where it is right now, turning the platter should turn the motor a bit. I can see the intermediate wheel is turning. Well, we can't be sure here. We can't be sure that the motor is not blocked, not doing this. It feels like there's no engagement. Let me put this lever even further. It seems like when I do this, nothing else in here is operating. We don't want to go further until we know this motor is actually working. Let's take a look in here. these wires are coming into this block, and I assume they're attached in some way to these 3 posts, and then the incoming wires are just screwed on. There's nothing going on here except the place to connect wires. From there, power comes to the switch. You know what? That blue piece of paper here? There's a little bit of it sticking out here. What is that blue paper? You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of, and I'm not saying it's this, but when you buy things with a battery in it, and sometimes they come with the battery, and then there's a blue, not necessarily blue, but a piece of plastic you pull out so the battery will make contact. We need to look inside the switch here, because here's this blue piece. What would that be there for? That's an odd thing. If I take this cover off, I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the mechanics inside here. A little simple mechanics. Maybe there's a spring-loaded thing, or maybe this didn't get pushed far enough. You'd think you'd hear some clicking. I believe this is would be a micro switch. And it should click. No clicking. Could be the switch is stuck in there. These little tiny screws. Okay, we're going to open this guy up. See what's inside. Can't do it with this little screw. I need more leverage. This is a bad deal, Jim. It's a bad deal. That's a bad deal. So I have the feeling this is tightened against a nut on the other side, and I'm not going to get anywhere here. In fact, I can't even tighten it now. Okay, that was not a good move. What's another way to get in here and find out if there's power making it to the motor? If the motor were blocked because of lubrication problems, it would hum. There would be a sound to it. It would try to operate, but we would hear something. Let's give that a go. So I'm going to hook this back up. Chances of this motor not working is very low. Very low. So I'm pretty sure we're going to win this fight. Chances of it being blocked. These motors have extremely low torque when they first start. In fact, they even have trouble starting. They have a trick in them to enable them to start turning. Okay, power's off here. I'm going to use the same pattern, white and black. Follow the same. Again, there's no polarity to my power supply. Power on through the light. Now it's upside down. This is not the best way to operate a record player, so if it starts going, I got to stop it right away. Okay, so why didn't it work before? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to flip it back over now. Make sure the power's off. This is not light. This is not a light unit. This is quite a beast. A lot of the weight will be in this. Okay, you made noise that way. Will you make noise this way? This is set to off. We wouldn't expect it to operate. Don't hear anything now. So what happened? I pushed that switch with my hand, and that was enough to start the thing up. Power off again. Lock this in. Back over. So I'll manually operate this switch. So that's the off position for sure. Okay, everything is the same. Power on. So there's a chance when the motor is turned the other way, it's blocking. It's not starting. When I got it upside down, for some reason, it's freer for operation. It certainly is noisy. It's making a lot of noise. Sounds like it needs lubrication. No surprise in that. Look at the rest of it. It's all dried up. Why wouldn't this be dried up too? Well, this one says laboratory balanced motor. So this is a pretty high quality record player. What they've done with this motor is during its manufacture, when it's put together and ready to go, they've introduced another stage where the motor goes into a laboratory and is balanced very carefully, so that the balance is so precise, there's no wobbling of the motor. It's not off-center, the weight is perfectly balanced. Otherwise, as the motor spins, it causes a quiver in the record player, which will go all the way up through the record into the needle, come out your speaker. So one compensation for this problem in the cheaper record players is they can't reproduce the low sounds for a couple of reasons. Speakers, cartridge, so you can't hear this. But if you're going for a higher quality of sound, you want deeper bass, you may start hearing mechanical stuff in here, including the motor spinning. So that's what the laboratory thing is. So this indicates this is a pretty good motor. Now, I've never seen one exactly like this. I mean, almost every record player looks a little different. Normally there's just a couple screws you take off and you can get at the bearings. It would look to me like it's this, and the other one's over here. And it looks like if I take those two out, I can lift the motor with this whole plate here. I don't know why they have this plate, but they do. Maybe it's I don't know what's here for. This plate will come off and the lower motor bearing will come apart intentionally, so I can do exactly what it is I intend on doing. Wow, we're getting ahead of the game here. Usually motor things are kind of the last things to be done, but I think in this case it's got to be the first thing. Am I interpreting this wrong? If they turn it over, what else could be stopping the motor from turning other than its own operation? I can't imagine. There's no floppy switches or anything. You know, the interesting question is, didn't I say this was in the off position here? This is in the off position. How can that motor start? How can that be? Let me try this again. Here we go. Of course, we didn't hear this thing click, so maybe this is stuck in the on position. Okay, so before messing around with the motor, I think I'm going to do something else with this. I'm going to take a look at another aspect of it here. Let's lift this up and over. I'd like to have, the impression I've got the full story before I start working. Okay, we can't get that. We're going to have to. I was going to take this off. I don't think I can get this off without getting this out of the way. I can get this out, I think. There we go, just lifts right up. Very good. Okay, put this over here. Now I could get the splatter off with this overarm. Let's try that. I have to get a locking device out of there. Make sure the power is off for sure. A large, what's called an E clamp, even though it looks like a C. And it's buried under this ring. So this ring, oh, this says right on it, Laboratory Series. Laboratory Series. I didn't notice that anywhere else. It's hidden away. It's just written here. So this is an extra good record player for the reasons I just told you about the motor being balanced. Extra balancing. We have to get this little ring out of here. Then it'll expose the E-clamp. I have the feeling this is going to take more than one day to do. Now I don't want to bend this. If I can avoid it, I don't want to scratch it or anything. Maybe there's a technique here I'm not aware of. Yeah, how about that? Turns out there's 3 tabs sticking out a little further, and I just luckily grabbed it here and pulled it this way and freed the tab. Lucky break there. Now we'll take a look at this clamp. This is not your basic C clamp or E clamp. This one has a locking feature on it. You have to defeat the locking feature. Why did they do that? Did they think somebody was going to steal it away or something? Why would they? Okay, this is very common. Let's see if we can pull this off here. Go. Okay. Right in here, a little hard to see maybe. There, you can see it now. So what I did with a small screwdriver is I just pushed one of these up so that this thing could move a little further, and then use this to pry it out. Okay, here we go. Some record players, the platter comes right off as easy as can be. Others, this is a major battle. Let's see what happens here. Okay, I'm battling. There it goes. Oh, unlucky. Okay, up she comes. I've had some major battles trying to get these off. There it is. Oh, I have to run to my door. Okay, that timing was pretty good. So, look at that. I got my epoxy for the project I was working on yesterday. I broke something, I need epoxy, didn't have any. Amazon got me epoxy in about 14 hours. Pretty quick. Okay, so here we are. What are we looking at here? So we're looking at a intermediate wheel, often referred to as the idler wheel, but it's actually intermediate is a better term. It's spring-loaded against this guy here. So I'm just moving things around to see, and taking the time to look at stuff here, not jumping too quick at anything. It's all kind of sticky, like things don't snap all the way back the way you would want them to. This is the brains of the operation. So this thing's going to turn around. It's going to spin around once. Can you see there's some teeth missing right there? These teeth are engaging. Oh, it's a very heavy platter. That's another secret of this record player. This is one of the heaviest platters I've picked up. See the teeth here? So these teeth engage with these, but there's a blank spot. There's a missing area. When that area gets to here, the wheel just stalls and stops. It just goes around once until this gets back here. Something has to start it. And that's part of what this mechanism is here. this guy appears to be okay. There shouldn't be any lubrication on this. This is designed to operate without lubrication. In fact, lubrication causes a problem in this area. This is called the velocity sensor. I'll explain that a little ways down the road. But now we'll turn this and see how loose it is. It's pretty loose. You see this is starting to turn. This piece is moving. So this is not in bad shape, but I have to imagine the lubrication is gone underneath here, and it would probably benefit from some lubrication, but it's not frozen. Not frozen. There's also a bearing under here that's holding the platter weight, bearing the platter weight down here. We'll get to that too. Right now we're looking for a gross problem. So here's the motor, and now I can try turning it and feeling it. Oh, it's as free as can be. There's no way this is blocked. This is not a blocked motor. Why won't it operate standing up? Maybe it was operating, but it's such a high quality motor, so well balanced, I couldn't even hear it. I can see it now, so I'm going to apply the power again. Let me just put this platter away so I don't drop it on my toes. Plug it back in. The state of affairs, like whereabouts in the mechanism is this, doesn't matter anymore because the main drive's been removed. With the platter off, this thing can't get driven, nothing can happen in the record player. Only this can go. I think we can pull this wheel over if we do this. There's something a little funny here. It should be up against the spindle. It doesn't feel right here. When the record player is on, the outside edge of the record platter is coming out here, but inside is a drive surface right in here. This rim, which is driven by this wheel. That wheel looks to be in really good shape too. Let me just do a quick check on it with my fingernail. No, it's got a very hard surface. So this is likely to slip a lot, but we can fix that. I can see it, maybe you can't. There's a reflection. It's got a mirrored surface on it, but it shouldn't. It should be just as dull as this surface. But over time, because of the pressure and things like that, some chemistry takes place on this running surface. But we can sort that out down the road. We want to see if this motor goes. Does this motor go? And it's just so good I couldn't hear it. So you can see the little set screw there, so you'll be able to see that turn. Otherwise it might be a little hard to see. We're ready to put the power on. Power on. There it goes. Silent. It's fantastic. That is fantastic. If this is noisy, if this were unbalanced, it's up against this wheel. Not only is it shaking the whole record player, but it's right up against this wheel, and this wheel is against the internal rim of the platter. The platter will begin to pick up the vibrations from here. Those vibrations will just be right in the entire platter and the record and get into the needle and come out the speaker. So this is built for a high quality cartridge, one whose bass response is very good. Do not fear the bass with this record player. Now the owner, knowing that this record player didn't work, sought another record player to substitute it. I have that record player. It's in its own cabinet, but it's definitely a large step down from this one. It won't have the super balanced motor in it, and the tone arm is not nearly as decent as this one. So this is a pretty good record player. AT60. Let's hear it for England. England was producing almost all the record players floating around Canada came from England. Okay, next step then. So I think we may have discovered why this isn't working, because this piece is not traveling properly. We're just kind of getting into the general lubrication issues now. So we know the motor works. We don't know if the cartridge works yet. We might as well find this out. I'm going to set things up so we can find out if that cartridge is working or not. Okay, so my intention is to plug this into the sound system that I used to make the video you're watching right now. And the first problem I've run into is, look at the plug here. So that's from the record player. Look at how long this pin is. It's crazy long. And most plugs like that don't have such a long pin on them. This is designed to go into a phono plug that in fact is a switch. And as you plug this in, this long piece goes way in and opens a switch inside. That's what these long things are for. The problem is not all the receptacles like this. It can take such a long thing. So it just barely makes contact here. Same on the other one. So this cable is heading to my audio system, which I will turn up now. Ooh, okay, I won't turn it up. So that's indicative of this ground not making a contact. Let me turn up a little bit just here. And here comes my cat, Peanut. He's become bored. So that's this ground opening and closing, I'm pretty sure. That hum coming and going. They don't like it. Okay, well so there could be a trouble here with the contact from the record player. What I plan to do now, I turn it up a little higher, just ignore the hum. It's only one channel humming. All kind of indicates this test may be bogus. Oop, what happened there? Apparently I got motor problems here. Didn't hurt. Well, that's too strong, huh? No way. Yeah, even Peanut agrees. Let me turn this down here. One of the things that happens is I put on these headphones, the volume levels I hear are different than what's going on in the video, and I get into trouble overloading the video trying to hear it on the headphones. So I hope I haven't done that too much. Let's just try it. Gently now. Bingo. This is a very good sign. I have this plugged into microphone inputs. Let me transfer it to line inputs. Here. Microphone inputs are very sensitive. Line input, not nearly as much. If this is a crystal cartridge, ceramic cartridge, turn this way up, we should still hear the finger thing. Barely hear it. So I'm pretty sure this is a magnetic cartridge. But I have to stop now and deal with this guy. What's up there, Peanut? Hey, what do you want to do? Look, there's a ball over there. Play with the ball. Go get the ball. Good cat. I know what he wants. He either wants me to feed him or to spend some time with him. So I'm going to go do that. Make him happy. I'm coming, man. I'm coming. I'm not so sure how far I'm going to get here today because it's mid-afternoon now and I normally don't work in my shop after lunch as a rule. But here I am. Let's see if we can get past this problem. Why won't this come up? Let's take a look. So here's the shaft, the bottom here, that's coming from the top. So you see something moving in the background here. What's making that move? So it's just a matter of terrible lack of lubrication in this machine. I'm pretty sure that's really all we're looking at. Up. So I think I should just get on with fixing the lubrication issues here. Wow, I've never seen one quite this dry before. And all the lubrication has just turned into this white stuff. How to approach that? You just get a brush, try to brush away as much of that stuff as possible. And okay, I'm going to work on removing all the dried up stuff here. We'll see what I get to. I won't film my efforts here. Just so you have some idea what I'm doing, I have a pretty soft brush and I'm just trying to knock off as much of that stuff as possible. But I made a couple observations here. One of them is this piece. It looks quite different from the rest of the metal. It's completely covered with a corrosion product. There's a similar piece here, right here. So that I don't think is dried up lubrication. I think that's honest to goodness corrosion on here. I'm not going to sweep that too much. The lubrication issues, there are some right around here, these shafts and stuff. But I don't know if I want to knock all that dust off there. So what the next stage is here for doing this, start applying lubrication. There's another thing worth taking note of. So when the record player is trying to detect the end of the record, which I'm not going to explain in detail right now, but just you know that when the tone arm gets far enough into the record, right at the end, it'll pick up and come back over. That process involves the tone arm itself, which is being pulled across the record by nothing more than the needle riding in the groove. The tone arm itself pushes this mechanism into action. And to do that, it has to be pushing very little. It can't be pushing anything that pushes back. So to achieve that, what most of these record players have is an arm. You see this one right here? See it moving up in the center and right here? Now look at how loose it is. It's loosey-goosey here. If I can get it onto the camera. Not much is that loose in here. Everything else is pretty solid, but not this piece. This piece is loose as can be. It's loose on purpose. Now the record player's on its side. It has to be in the right position for this part to fall into its correct position. And the idea is this moves with virtually no power to push it. And what's pushing it? You see where my finger's pushing it there? You see there's a post here. So I'm going to move the tone arm towards the center of the record. And you're going to see something. Wait a minute. Something's not working here. Okay, maybe I'm full of crap. There we go. You watch. You see what's pushing the arm? The rod, or the I don't know what to call that. The thing that's pushing it. Oh, it fell in place. Now that's because this thing's on its side, right? It's not in its regular position. So all that's pushing this piece is the needle riding in the groove of the record. And if it required a fair bit of force, the needle would ride up on one side of the groove. You can just imagine that happening in order to gain the force to push this piece. I'm dwelling on this because there's some other pieces that are similar. There's a mechanism that needs to be pushed by the tone arm that cannot push back. These pieces are loose on purpose, and they should not be lubricated. They should not be lubricated. If you were to lubricate them, it would have to be very, very light oil. But they're really not intended to be lubricated. Now this is a kind of a dirty deal here with all this white stuff around. I gotta lock this tone arm back in place. So maybe this isn't going to work so freely. Once we get around to it, when we're testing the record player to see if it'll pick up, we might find out that there's a problem with this piece. Maybe not. So I have knocked off quite a bit of the white dust here. Might be time to apply lubricants now. There's two kinds of, basically two kinds of lubricants, grease and oil. And grease and oil have places in here. And often there are detailed instructions that come with the record player. And sometimes they specify 4 or 5 different kinds of greases and oils to put on here. Well, that's kind of a luxurious sort of thing. I don't have that many. But I have some light oil, and I have some grease. My grease is silicone, I guess it is. Silicone grease. You apply the grease in areas where there's pieces sliding over each other. So right in here, there's a piece that slides over. You can see some of the old grease. I guess that black is the old grease. What didn't turn white? That's where the grease goes. Sometimes some of these arms are rotating against the deck plate. Grease. Now this guy is so dry you really can't see where the original grease was, but in most of these you can see where the grease was and you can just mimic what was done then. And this one, not so much. So I'm just going to be wiggling parts and deciding grease it or oil it, or don't do either. There are some pieces, as I've pointed out, you should not be applying oil to. Okay, that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, this is the synthetic grease I'm using. Just start in the top left corner and just come across the machine looking at stuff. So this piece here is the piece which is adjusted for changing the speed of the record player, and this really needs to be lubricated well in here. It's going to bump over top of this piece. Let's make it go. So this is the speed adjustment I'm moving, trying to move. As this moves, this piece here that I was just putting grease on, that's a ramp. See how low it is over here? And some of it's hidden inside here, and then you can see it's high. This is supposed to move this piece up. This piece, the part I haven't paid attention to yet, is like stuck. There's a spring to pull it down or to work against the, pull it up, I guess. Yeah, there's so much crud on here. Wow. Okay, so I got to do a little more vigorous cleaning right in here. Pretty vigorous cleaning here. Okay, brushed away most of the corrosion product from the shaft. I'm using a little, steel wire brush to do it. Trying not to be too rough on it. Now that's without any lubrication. Now there's a shaft here, there's another shaft back here. So the shaft back here is what's pulling the idler wheel, or the proper name, intermediate wheel, up and down. This is the speed changing mechanism, right? So it's dry right now with lubrication, and I'm trying to use the part to scrape itself clean. That's basically what I'm up to. I really don't want to take any of this apart if I can avoid it. Not a lot of advantage to that. Okay. Now let's kind of hold it up. We're going to move the speed control here. We'll try. It doesn't want to go. All greased up. Trying. I'm looking for are surfaces that I can see, oh my gosh, they need to be lubricated. Top surface all along here. And this part I can now apply some lubricant to it, I think. I don't think I'm going to get it any cleaner. So I'm using grease here for this. You want to use oil where, you know, for shafts that are in sleeves and things like that. These kinds of kind of crude mechanisms, if I can call it that, not so much. Oil's not going to stay put. Okay, let me flip this here. I don't want to go yet. And there's no reason you can't put a little oil with grease at times. I mean, this is, of all the record players I've done, this is one of the driest that I've seen. Really dry. Okay, oops. Are we getting all the way up? 1 speed, 2 speeds, 3 speeds, and not really. I don't think we're getting all the way there. That's all the way there now. The funny shape of this metal is creating the stop points for the adjustment. So as you're picking a speed, this piece is coming against this shaft. And it's spring loaded. Oops, wrong control. Yeah, it kind of. Getting better all the time. Still having trouble. Now that top speed is almost certainly 78, and yeah, probably not ever going to play a 78. Okay, there. If we look right in here, this is contacting the deck right here. No sign of original lubrication there. Often when you get these record players and look at them, you can see that somebody in the manufacturing process used their finger to spread the glue around. I guess more often they'd be using a brush. Glue. Did I say glue? It's often glue when it gets to me. Good. That's one down. Okay, what do we want to do now? We will take a look at, so we're coming in this corner, we're coming down this way. I'm looking at all the bits and pieces. Take a look at this stuff in here. So the center of the record player, the spindle is right here. You see this piece is moving this way and that. So it definitely needs grease in there. Spot this spot right here. Looks like I can see remnants of grease there. Okay. coming up. What's this? So a lot of these record players shut off the cartridge, actually short out the signal from the cartridge when the tone arm is in motion. Otherwise, all that click, clunk, 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 it'll all come out of your speakers. So often you'll see the tone arm come across, the needle come down, it'll touch the record, and then you hear click, click, and part of that is this switch being opened, I guess it would be. You can see where it's involved in this plate. Okay, so let's look at this plate. You certainly need lubrication right here. You know, there's something a little odd about this plate, this funny or rampy piece here, and I'm using the word ramp on purpose. What lifts the tone arm when the automatic feature is going? This shape is responsible for lifting and setting down the tone arm. If we swing this over, you can see it right in here. This shaft going down is going to push on the tone arm and lift it, and I'm not going to make that happen. You can see the tone arm's locked here right now. It's another interesting thing about these mechanisms. They know that from time to time the tone arm will be restricted while the mechanism's operating. Somebody's going to grab it, it's caught on their sleeve, who knows. Sooner or later the tone arm will be jammed by somebody doing something while the automatic operation is going. Somebody forcing the tone arm or something. There are slip clutches in here that will accommodate that, so no damage will occur. That's about all I'll say about that. So what about this rampy piece? It's got a hard job to do, in a sense. This looks like the record size setting part. So you want lubrication up underneath here. Oops, I think I just got it on something I don't want to get lubrication on there. Let's swing it over this way. Maybe I should be using a stick or something to do this. To reduce the friction between this piece and the ramp, this piece usually has pretty much a point sticking up, point contact. That lubricated. We accidentally got some lubrication on the part I explained should never be lubricated. Okay, it's okay so far. So let's go over this way. And what's all this stuff? Pretty loose, so I'm not sure lubrication's going to help it at all. Got a spring, a long spring in here to retract it. Seems to be moving fine. There's a thingy here. Some of these parts are going to be in a certain position because the platter stopped in a certain position, or the mechanism, the real brains of this thing, which I haven't shown you yet, could be in a certain position. So, don't think I want to try looking for anywhere to lubricate on the actual tone arm itself. Up above. This piece. So this piece is pushing on this guy. This guy's fairly loose. Okay, loose parts don't really need lubrication. Or light oil is what you would use. Nothing's moving too much because it's probably locked a bit. Okay, look at this piece now. So this is the this has to be the manual. The switching the set on. I mean, it's not going to operate necessarily upside down. So can you see these little bits? See, every record player is a little bit different. So I mean, there's no firm and fast way to do them all. So this is what I did. So looking at this, where this piece crashes into something and moves it. it's moving this up here. So I think a little bit of grease there would help. Look at that. Okay, and see it's right on the deck here. So we'll put a little grease in there. Might just make everything feel a lot better when you operate it. Grease there. It's kind of an interesting little thing here. What's this all about? This doesn't feel good. This feels sticky. It's a little loose. Yeah, it's definitely loose. It's a loose piece. So I didn't go at this with the steel brush. Oh, I can take it right off here if I want it. Looks like it's got a lot of gunk on it. That's better. Maybe I just relocated it so it's freer. Definitely needs some, even though it's not turning on a shaft or anything, it's just fit in there. We'll throw a little grease on it. I don't think you can go too far wrong doing this, by the way. You grease something that doesn't need it. I don't think it's, it's not in most cases it's not harmful. I pointed out the one piece you don't want to do it to. Velocity trigger slider rod. So understanding how these record players recognize the end of the record is it's not what you think, not what I would have thought, not what I did think. I thought the common sense, when the tone arm gets far enough in, then the record player just picks it up. But that's not actually how it works. That's a lot better. That's a lot better now. It's called a velocity sensor for a reason. It actually detects the velocity of the tone arm. What? The tone arm has a velocity? Yeah, well, it's traveling in the record groove. It's hardly moving. It's very slow. Low velocity. When it gets to the inner groove, the inner part, the groove travels in quicker. So you might think, well, that's just to get the tone arm quickly to the trigger point, but that's not what's going on. It's trying to accelerate the speed of the tone arm's movement. And that accelerated speed will cause the record player to pick up. If you don't believe this, go get your record player. Put the needle maybe at least 2/3 of the way across the record, maybe a little bit further, and pick it up and move it rapidly towards the end of the record. But don't go into that trigger zone that you're familiar with. Just move it towards the trigger zone. Chances are your record player will pick up because you increase the speed of the tone arm enough. Not necessarily. Okay, we got a little thing down here now. That's the loosey-goosey part. I'm not going to worry about that. And this is part of the tone arm mechanism, and I mentioned that there's a clutch. There are clutches in it, and you don't want to oil the clutch or get grease on the clutch. Now, what about this piece here? So this funny shaped piece with the teeth on it. This could be the record size teeth. This thing can maybe, well, you see this little arm down here, which I have not explained. When you drop a 12-inch record down, it'll strike this arm and swing it over. It'll cause this to set itself in a certain position. That'll block this from coming too far over. It'll cause the needle to drop in the groove of the 12-inch record. If you put a 10-inch record in, this thing doesn't get hit. This thing won't move, or moves somehow differently. I don't know. And it'll catch a different tooth here, and that'll cause the tone arm to go further in and catch the outer edge of the 10-inch. Same thing with the 45 is even smaller, I think. So there's got to be a 45 setting here too, or something like that. Something like that's going on. Is there any reason I need to lubricate anything? I don't think so. I think for now this is good enough. What about some oil? What about throwing a little oil on there? Where would you want to put oil on this? For now, nowhere. I don't think I want to put any oil anywhere. Shaft. Oh yes, I do. Yeah, the overarm shaft, the thing we started with. Where'd it go? Where'd you go? Here we are. This guy. We got to clean this guy up here. The overarms, part of the overarm's job, along with stabilizing the records, is to detect when there's no more records to drop off the spindle. There's a shape. Can you see down in there? See the shape of it? It's not by accident. It looks like there's something that should move in, but I don't see anything moving in there. Let's see if we can find something to move in there. Nothing's moving it. So I suspect there's a problem right in here. I don't want to go spraying lubricant in there. Here we are. This is the piece here. Well, it doesn't feel spring loaded or anything. Looks like it gets pushed by this piece. Maybe if this goes down, it pushes this. So that's got to be the end of the record there. What's happening is here, this is locked. But when this drops down further, I'm full of crap. Well, there's more mechanism to it, but I'll bet you this is now free, so this can go somewhere driven by the rest of the mechanism. So I don't think it needs to, I don't think you have to worry about it. You have to worry about this. Oh, this horrible thing here. Okay, I don't think body oil is the right stuff to put there. We'll put some grease. This is fairly loose fitting, this thing. Let me give it a little grease. How do you like that? He likes it. Okay, I think we got the major stuff done underneath. Now the interesting stuff on top is going to come.